Last time we discussed the dire situation that the Japanese found themselves in while in the city of Seoul. So much so that they couldn't even support reinforcements anymore. I'm Stefan, and this is Japan at War. Yi Sun-sin, after the amphibious landing at Imjin, had been waiting for further orders from the Korean government. His hope had been that when the Ming and Korean allied armies had pushed the Japanese to their ships, that he would be able to engage them in open water and destroy them, delivering a decisive blow. But on the mainland, that's not how it's been progressing. Yi Sun-sin and Wang Hyun, one of the other naval commanders, well, their relationship was starting to sour by the second. They had been taking turns trashing each other in notes sent to the Korean courts. Yi would refer to Wan as vicious and full of malice, while Wan would say that Yi Sun-sin didn't respect the king and didn't like following orders. And while this was happening, there was disease running through the Navy, and not a lot of food to go around. Most of the men in the Navy were actually farmers in their regular life, and they actually needed to return to the fields. With all these factors to consider, Yi Sun-sin decided with Wang Hyun and Yeoki that they should let the men return to their fields and repair their ships. On May 3rd, the naval commanders returned to their respective ports. Back on land, May 7th, Ming Commander-in-Chief Li Rusong had arrived back in Kaesong with Shen Weijing, the man that had negotiated with Kunishi Yukinaga for peace last year. Of course, he still did have him in custody, as he had actually found those talks treasonous at the time. But there was now a chance for the man to prove his worth, as Li wanted to negotiate with the Japanese for them to leave Seoul without further bloodshed. There was also quite a few people who hated his plan though. Seong-ryong Chen, Li's superior in Liaodong, who was actually in charge of overseeing the whole operation, for example, had reprimanded him for his retreat after the Battle of Byeokjigwon, and urged him to press forward and attack again. Li Rusong really didn't need to address Seong-ryong Chen and his concerns though, as the Minister of War in Beijing supported Li's plan. To put it bluntly, war is expensive, and there wasn't really enough money at this point to continue further fighting. Song wasn't the only person that Li was ignoring. Many of the Korean government officials had also requested for the Ming army to continue to push forward. National High Commissioner Yu Seong-ryong had made one of those requests, and Li Rusong responded by telling him that it was one of his greatest desires to destroy the enemy. In reality though, he was preparing to send Shen Weijing to negotiate peace with the Japanese. The relationship between the allies at this time was incredibly strained, especially between Commander-in-Chief Li Rusong and Korean High Commissioner Yu Seong-ryong. So much so that Li supposedly ordered the man beaten. Where this actually happened or not, I have no idea. A great example of the tensions came on May 8th as Yu rode into Quan Yul's camp at Paju. A unit of Ming soldiers was already there with the Wanli Emperor's banner in full display. Beside the banner was a large poster announcing that there would soon be negotiations, and it was now forbidden for any Koreans to attack the Japanese. Yu was furious. How could he not be? The Ming commander in charge of the unit apparently ordered Yu to bow and show his respect to the emperor's banner. Yu Seong-ryong, being the absolute boss that he was, refused and said, "This banner will be carried into the city of Seoul by the Ming negotiators, and I will bow to nothing that the enemy bows to." The Ming commander ordered him again that he needed to bow, and again, Yu Seong-ryong refused. He then got on his horse and rode away. The next morning, the man had calmed down enough to realize that there could be political ramifications for his actions. So he decided that he would go to Li Rusong and apologize in person. He took his horse and rode to Kaesong with another Korean official where the commander-in-chief was, and presented himself outside the city walls. A guard took notice of them, but didn't open the gate. Yi turned to his companion and said, "The commander is just angry and is testing us. We should wait here a while." And they did wait for a while, in the now pouring rain. After a while, they were actually allowed in, and Yu made his apology to Li Rusong, and it was accepted. And you would think that this would be the end of it, but it wasn't. After leaving Kaesong and heading to the Korean camp just north of Seoul, he ran into a small group of Ming cavalrymen, and one of them blocked the road with his horse. He then asked who he was. When he heard his response, he turned to Seong-ryong, grabbed his horse's reins, turned him around, and slapped the horse on its rear, and shouted to get out of here and go back to the north. A pretty confusing encounter for sure. The reason that the cavalrymen were so mad was because of one of Li's commanders had accused him of removing all the boats at the Imjin River to prevent the negotiators from being able to reach Seoul. It was, of course, not true, but it didn't really matter. A few hours later, Seong-ryong was put under arrest and brought before Li Rusong. Li was mad. He refused to listen to anything the man had to say in his defense. Instead, he ordered the man to be stripped of rank and then have him beaten with a plank of wood 40 times. Yu was only saved when one of Li Rusong's officers appeared to give him an update. The men had crossed the river using the boats. So basically, the boats had been there the entire time. Li was incredibly embarrassed. He immediately had Seong-ryong released, and then put out an arrest on his accuser. When the man was brought to Li, he had him endure the same punishment meant for Yu. That man was quite literally beaten unconscious. And this is where I will leave you. Cracks starting to form in the alliance. In the next episode, we'll actually explore the negotiations that are soon to take place. I'll see you then.